Starting off the list at number 10 is Terrance Howard. We saw him take on the role of James Rhodes in the first Iron Man movie, but then he disappeared and we didn't see him reprise his role for the sequel. But we eventually got an explanation for it, and it's pretty simple. Money. He discussed his reasoning for leaving the MCU in 2013 on the Andy Cohen series called Watch What Happens Live. He alleged that Robert Downey Jr., I quote, took the money that was supposed to go to me and pushed me out. He explained that Marvel signed him up for 3 films, and then when it was time for the sequel, they demanded he take an almost 90% pay cut. I feel like that's illegal. He also said that he called Robert Downey Jr., a friend of his who he actually helped get the role of Iron Man in the first place, and apparently Robert didn't call him back for 3 months. But 4 years later they were able to be civil again, and Terrance admitted that he just ran his mouth when he shouldn't have, and that they are all making money now, so who cares. Up next at number 9 is Zoe Saldana. We watched her play Gamora in the Marvel franchise for years, but recently she disappeared on us. Fans were thrilled to see her resurrection in Avengers Endgame, but her return left everyone with a lot of unanswered questions. Mainly one: what does this mean? Now that she's basically come back to life, where does her character go from here? Fans were hoping to get some answers at Comic-Con this year, but all we got was confirmation that she will not be returning anytime soon. When speaking with the LA Times, she spoke as if her time with the MCU has officially reached an end. They spoke about her last experience as Gamora and how she felt, and she said, "It was sad, of course, because I think we all suffer from FOMO. There is always a fear of missing out, but I'm so happy that I got to play a part in the Marvel universe. So I guess I'm going to cry all the way to Avatar, you know?" Zoe knew she would return for Avengers Endgame to finish the story, but we're all pretty bummed that hers might officially be over. At number 8 we have Gwyneth Paltrow, who we know to play Iron Man's beautiful wife in the series Pepper Potts. She played Tony Stark's love interest for 11 years, appearing in different movies throughout her MCU experience. Her character appeared in all 3 Iron Man movies, as well as Avengers Infinity War, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Avengers Endgame. However, for those who saw Avengers Endgame, we all had to witness the death of Tony Stark, which means we also were saying goodbye to Pepper Potts. Fans might be bummed out, but Gwyneth seems to be okay with it and says that it is her time. She told Variety, "I mean, I'm a bit too old to be in a suit and all at this point." She has nothing but good things to say about her experience in the MCU, and chances are very slim that she will just reappear. So over the number 7 spot is Edward Norton. He took on the role of the Green Monster, the Hulk, in the original Incredible Hulk movie. Fans were in shock back in 2010 when it was announced that they wouldn't be asking him to reprise his role in Avengers, saying that they wanted an actor who, I quote, embodied the creativity and collaborative spirit of our other talented cast members. Like anyone else would be, Edward was offended by that statement and told his side of the story, saying they unexpectedly cut off negotiations after weeks of civil discussions. I'm confused. Turns out there was already bad blood between the actor and Marvel because he wanted to rewrite the script, and when his added scenes weren't used in the final cut, he refused to do press for it. More recently in 2018, over a decade later, he took a shot at Marvel during Comedy Central's roast of Bruce Willis and went to the podium and said, "I tried to be like Willis. I did a big action movie called The Incredible Hulk. You know what went wrong? I wanted a better script." Shots fired. Next up at number 6 is Hugo Weaving, who played the Red Skrull throughout his time in the MCU. He first signed a multi-picture deal with Marvel Studios, but then decided he didn't want to return after Captain America: The First Avenger. You might be confused, as we saw the Red Skrull after that in Avengers Infinity War, but that was not Hugo. He was actually replaced by another actor. Apparently there weren't any hard feelings towards Marvel, he just wanted to steer away from blockbuster movies. He spoke about it with Collider, saying, "I think I've done my dash with that sort of film. It was good to do it and try it out, but to be honest, it's not the sort of film I seek out and am excited by." Since then he has appeared in other blockbuster films, but his screen time is relatively short, nothing compared to his time as the Red Skrull. Halfway through the list at number 5 is Tim Blake Nelson. Hulk comic fans weren't surprised when we learned about Mr. Blue in the Incredible Hulk film. The mystery man that Bruce Banner can only contact through instant messages turns out to be a scientist named Samuel Stearns, who was played by Tim Nelson. In the comics, his character is the alter ego of the Hulk nemesis, and their storyline lasted 4 years. This would have fans to believe that we'd see the storyline play out. In 2011, Nelson told the Playlist that he was still under contract to do more films for Marvel, but nothing ever came from it. He never got another Hulk standalone movie. Mark Ruffalo later took on the role as the Green Monster, and if it makes anything better for Norton, we still haven't seen a Hulk standalone movie, so don't worry. Here we are at number 4 with Tim Roth. He played the villain, the Abomination, in the Incredible Hulk movie, so people thought they would see him again for the sequel to Avengers. Tim told Crave Online that Marvel actually considered it. it. He said they were going to do it. They were thinking in the Avengers or something. It just kind of got swept under the rug, I guess. He went on to say that he didn't feel confident about making a return to the MCU, so it's really no surprise that he disappeared after that. However, there's no bad blood and he'd be more than willing to come back. He once answered a fan question on Reddit and wrote, "I don't think Marvel will ever use me again, but it would be fun. Unfortunately, man, I don't think they will either." At number 3 is Chris Evans. Our beloved Captain America has disappeared from the Marvel Universe, and I'm still pretty upset about it. At the end of Avengers Endgame, we watched him pass over his shield to Falcon, who confirmed at the Seattle Comic-Con that he is in fact the new Captain America. Which can only mean one thing: Chris Evans no longer has a place in the MCU. Although you won't convince Marvel fans who feel like the actor can never truly be replaced. He did get one final performance in Endgame, and he was asked about his character's decision to return to the past and whether or not his reunion with Peggy Carter will have some sort of ramifications with Sharon Carter. Chris admits that he doesn't have the answer to that question, but he said that the MCU will never leave a stone unturned. He said, "Ask the writers. I mean, look, I understand there's a lot of things you could question about the time continuum, but if there's anything I've learned about working with Marvel, it's that they don't leave stones unturned. They really don't." So basically, let's all cross our fingers for the chance that he comes back for some kind of like cameo or something. Just put him on our screen. In spot number 2 is Robert Downey Jr. Number 2 on this list, but number 1 in our hearts. That was so cheesy. This one is pretty painful to talk about. After 11 years of watching the actor play Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, we had to part ways with him in Endgame after watching his very emotional death. Marvel fans are still digesting the death of the hero, and Comic-Con was just another reminder that we will not be seeing him in Phase 4. It might be safe to say that Robert Downey Jr. has officially run out of time in the MCU. People were happy to see him appear in Spider-Man Homecoming, even though it wasn't part of a story that continues any further. But regardless, Marvel fans already have a theory that the actor might return one day. The actor has recently said that he wants to see Ironheart being immortalized on screen as an actual character in the MCU. If this is a possibility, then he could technically come back as an AI, meaning he could reprise his Tony Stark ego as an artificial intelligence. There is no confirmation on this, and Marvel's president Kevin Feige speaks on Tony Stark's death and said that his death will be felt in future movies. So he is still talking in past tense, which means that he is totally gone. Taking the number 1 spot on our list is Tom Holland due to recent tragic events. The Marvel Universe was flipped upside down when it was announced that Disney and Sony could not reach an agreement on finances for the Spider-Man franchise. Technically, Sony owns Spider-Man, which also means that they pretty much own Tom Holland. The door officially closed on Spider-Man returning to the MCU, and Sony's boss man, Tony Vinciquerra, says they will be okay. He told Variety, "Spider-Man was fine before the event movies, did better with the event movies, and now that we have our own universe, he will play off the other characters as well. I think we're pretty capable of doing what we have to do here." The two studios weren't able to reach an agreement because Disney wanted a 50-50 co-financing arrangement, and Sony refused. There has been a ton of backlash from fans who are saying that they are going to boycott future Sony movies. Tom Holland doesn't like to speak on the issue right now and simply made a statement to his fans where he told them he's grateful and that he loves them 3000. Only true fans will know what that means. Starting off our list at number 10 is Josh Brolin, or as the MCU knows him as, Thanos. He has become one of the staples of the Marvel Universe after his incredible performance as the epic villain, but sadly his big superhero gig has come to an end. There's probably some mixed emotions going around about it. I mean, we'd be lying if we didn't say we wanted him to be defeated in Avengers Endgame, but after the villain was finally taken down, it meant that not only were we losing the Purple Beast, we were also losing Josh Brolin. With his character out of the picture, we won't see him making a return in the 2020 Phase 4. However, it turns out that Brolin is trying to get his hands on a role in an upcoming Deadpool movie. Disney Fox confirmed that there has been a temporary hold on Deadpool, which means that it could not even happen at all. But the actor said it hasn't stopped him from calling Marvel Studios multiple times to ask about the future possibility. During a recent appearance at the ACE Comic-Con in Seattle, he said, I quote, "I've been calling them, like, what's the deal with cable, man? Seriously, 100% serious. They're figuring it out. It's a big world now. It just got bigger, so who knows." Although we might not be seeing him in the MCU in 2020, there is still hope that we could see him back in the MCU in the future. And hopefully for Deadpool. Coming in at number 7 is Chris Pratt, another another actor who will be missing from the MCU's Phase 4 come 2020. Good news is he is not gone forever, but we sure will miss him next year. At the recent Comic-Con events, fans couldn't help but notice that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was missing from Phase 4. Marvel's president Kevin Feige did mention that it was still coming to the panel, but will most likely be in Phase 5. But leave it up to Chris Pratt for not being a poor sport about it. He still hopped on the hype train for all the Phase 4 reveals. He joined the conversation by saying, I quote, "Oh my god, I cannot wait to see Blade. That to me is going to be so sick. I'm a huge fan of the original. All the Disney Plus stuff sounds really cool. I want to see Anthony Mackie in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Scarlett's movie Black Widow. I'm just excited for all of it." You gotta love seeing how stoked he is for his other MCU members. His support is adorable, you guys. But we will be counting down the days until we see him again, and hopefully that is in Phase 5. Halfway through our list, at number 5 is Paul Rudd. He blessed our screens when he showed up in Avengers Endgame, adding some good comedy into the epic movie. Some were thinking that with his return would come another Ant-Man movie, but it wasn't even mentioned at this recent Comic-Con event. It's no secret that the Ant-Man films don't deliver the same box office results that his other MCU hero movies do, but we can't deny that they are entertaining and offer something different to the fans. People are curious to know, since we won't be seeing him in 2020, could he eventually get a third Ant-Man film? When the actor is asked about it, he responds by telling his fans to campaign for it, which doesn't really make us feel too confident about his return. It would be weird to go 2 full phases without a solo film, so it might be coming in Phase 5. Or maybe his character will make some sort of cameo in another story. In the past, Ant-Man films have been placed in the timeline after big events, so a solo movie might come at the end of Phase 5 following whatever big stuff Marvel has planned. These are all just fan speculations though. All we can do now is wait and see. But for now, I'm really gonna miss him. Up next is Evangeline Lilly, who partnered with Paul Rudd as the hero Wasp. It is a love story that we will probably never get sick of. Or we will. Who knows? But what I do know is the entire theater went crazy when we saw the two of them reunite in Avengers Endgame. Fans were thrilled to see Ant-Man, but then we all got very surprised when the love of his life showed up. But that's the thing, there's really no Wasp without Ant-Man, so we won't be seeing the actress in the 2020 Phase 4 either. But like fans are hoping for another Ant-Man movie, they are also hoping for a sequel to Ant-Man and the Wasp. And now that we got to see the two of them make a return in Endgame, there is actually a possibility that this could happen. Maybe a solo film won't work, but this one might. What do you guys think? Alright guys, at number 3 is Mark Ruffalo. We've seen him take on the role of the Angry Hulk for years, but we saw a different side to his character in Avengers Endgame, a much softer side. Some people got on board with it while others weren't really having it. But nonetheless, we can't deny that we love to see Mark in the MCU. After Endgame, no one really knows where the Hulk will go from here. For years, people have been hoping for a solo movie, but nothing has ever come about. After seeing the Phase 4 panel, we can't expect to see the actor in 2020. No solo Hulk movie was announced or even mentioned, and if anything, fans are hoping he could make some exciting cameos or something else in one of the other movies which were revealed. This hasn't stopped fans from coming up with the theory though that the Hulk could be turned into a villain and appear in Phase 4. The theory says that a different Hulk could be brought into the story, called Maestro from the 1992 Marvel Comics. This version is a combination of Banner's mind and Hulk's strength, just like the Smart Hulk, which we saw Mark Ruffalo become in Endgame. These are just some ideas, and fans are hoping for it, but as of now, we're not getting our hopes up to see him in 2020. Taking the number 1 spot is Wesley Snipes. One of the best moments at this year's Comic-Con was the announcement of Blade, but more so who was cast to play the part. In the original Blade movie, Wesley Snipes took on the epic role, but we just found out that someone new will be playing the part, and it's Mahershala Ali, the 2-time Oscar winner. You can only imagine what it would feel like to not reprise your role for the reboot, but Snipes surprisingly handled himself with some grace. After the big announcement was revealed, he released a statement saying, I quote, "To all the daywalkers losing their minds right now, chillax. Although the news comes as a surprise, it's all good. Such is the business of entertainment. Much peace to the MCU crew, always a fan." So I guess there's no bad blood then. Some fans weren't so forgiving though and think that the role should have gone back to him. He hasn't played the Marvel character since 2004, but we might just see him again. He has also said that he and Marvel will someday work together again, and that it is not the end of the story. Do you guys think he should have been reprised the role? Tell me down in the comments, because this is the big debate.
Coming in at 10, Tim Roth. Now, for warning, there will be a lot of mention of Incredible Hulk on this list because we all know how much of a train wreck that film was. Anyway, Tim Tim Roth of course played Emil Blonsky, aka the Abomination, in this 2008 superhero flick. However, this was Roth's only appearance, which was a surprise to many fans of the actor and character. According to Roth, Marvel did consider bringing him back for Avengers, stating they were going to do it. They were thinking in the Avengers 2 or something. It just kinda got swept under the carpet, I guess. How the folks over at Marvel were going to craft that story, we have no idea, considering Ultron was the main antagonist. Roth has given up hope on a return, however, considering that fans weren't so thrilled about the Hulk films, and the possibility of Mark Ruffalo getting a standalone is slim to none. Roth did state, however, I don't think Marvel will ever use me again, but it would be fun. Coming in at 9, Josh Dallas. Josh Dallas appeared in Thor back in 2011 as Fandral of the Warriors 3. Now, he wasn't the most pivotal character, but people certainly took notice when he disappeared and was replaced by Zachary Levi. Now, the recasting didn't come down to money, behind the scenes drama, or lack of skill, but simply because of a scheduling conflict. At the time, Dallas was also appearing on ABC's Once Upon a Time as Prince Charming / David Nolan, with the actor also signed up for Thor: The Dark World. However, due to conflicts with ABC, Dallas had to back out. The actor was reportedly bummed about the situation, stating, I had such a great experience and great time making the first film and was really excited about coming back. I love Marvel. I wish them all the best. Dallas wasn't forced out but came to the decision on his own, knowing that it was impossible for him to fly back and forth to Vancouver in order to shoot Once Upon a Time. At least he wasn't shoved out the door. There's always that. Coming in at 8, Jamie Alexander. Like our number 10 point, Jamie Alexander also had some scheduling conflicts when it came time to shoot Thor Ragnarok. The popular actress who played Lady Sif completely disappeared from the franchise, with fans questioning the notable absence. Outside of the MCU, Alexander stars as Jane Doe on NBC's Blind Spot, which ultimately got in the way of her returning as Lady Sif. However, unlike Dallas, Alexander stated that Marvel didn't work very hard to make things work out for her. I quote, I was hoping for more of a notice from the studio so I could make it work, but it was a short notice thing. They called and said, hey, by the way, would you come do this? And I said, there is no way I can make that work that fast. Thankfully, the door is still open for a Lady Sif return. However, it will be unlikely to be Jamie Alexander playing the beloved character. Coming at 7, Damian Poitier. Now, it's common knowledge that Josh Brolin wasn't the first actor to play the Mad Titan Thanos, with the actor first appearing in his purple getup back in 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy. However, Thanos appeared before then, back in 2012 The Avengers. However, this time the Mad Titan was played by Damian Poitier, best known for his role in HBO's True Blood. Now, there were no reports of Marvel being unhappy with Damian or his performance, it just appears that Josh Brolin was the better choice in their eyes, and honestly, they're not wrong. Kevin Feige told Collider, I quote, you look at Brolin's face and the performance he gives, he could be Thanos without any effects. He has that kind of face and that kind of gravitas to it. Now, Damian did make a small cameo in the MCU following Avengers, but this time in Civil War as one of Crossbones' henchmen. However, it's unlikely that he will ever return to the MCU, at least not in a big way, that is. Coming in at 6, Aaron Taylor Johnson. Oh, Quicksilver gone too soon. We still remember that heartbreaking moment Scarlet Witch's brother Quicksilver shielded Hawkeye and a young civilian in order to protect them from a spray of bullets. Sadly, the speedster wasn't speedy enough and bit the dust instantly, resulting in Scarlet Witch losing all of her shit. His death surprised everyone, with the character only just being introduced into the MCU, with many speculating that it had something to do with Evan Peters playing the same character in X-Men Days of Future Past. However, Kevin Feige denied these claims, stating instead that Quicksilver's death adds stakes to the ending of the film, to show repercussions to Ultron's action, and also in a way to solidify Scarlet Witch's character and Wanda's arc in the movie and where we'll see her in the next films. He even went on to state that in every single version of the script, Quicksilver died. Well, sorry Aaron.
Starting off our list at number 10 is Mark Ruffalo. Now, true Avengers fans will know this story already, but for those who don't worry, and please don't attack me in the comment section because this has been an ongoing joke between Mark Ruffalo, who plays the Hulk, and the Russo brothers. Essentially, the joke goes that Mark Ruffalo was on the Jimmy Fallon show and he faked that he had leaked the 4th Avengers movie title. So he tweeted Jimmy to please remove it from the show, and then Jimmy said the episode was already soon to air. This drew fans to watch the show, only to see that the so-called spoiler had been bleeped out, so it was clearly a publicity stunt. The Russo brothers then tweeted at Mark saying, "You're fired." The pair tweeted back and forth until the Endgame poster was revealed, which Mark jokingly tweeted, "So I'm not fired?" But some people took this joke too seriously and are still worried he won't be in Avengers 4. But don't worry, Mark's firing is just a joke and he will for sure be in Avengers 4. Next on our list is Catherine Langford. This isn't so much as a firing as it's simply a complete cut from the movie. It was announced early on that Catherine would appear in the record-breaking film Avengers Endgame. However, when fans watched the movie, they couldn't find her anywhere. Directors Joe and Anthony Russo confirmed that Catherine filmed a scene for Endgame in which she played an older version of Tony Stark's daughter, Morgan, saying, quote, "There was an idea that we had that Tony was going to go into the metaphysical way station that Thanos goes into when he snapped his fingers, and that there was going to be a future version of his daughter. We showed it to a test audience and it was really confusing. Grown-up Morgan was supposed to tell her father she forgave him and let him die in peace, but because the adult version of Morgan didn't resonate with the audience, the scene never made it to the final cut, and Catherine was let go from the Marvel Universe." We have Gerard Sanders at number 8. Howard Stark, Tony Stark's father, has appearances and has been referenced several times in the MCU. Many people think John Slattery is the only man to play Stark, as he appeared in Iron Man 2 and onwards, even being killed off in Civil War by the Winter Soldier. But many fans forget it's actually Sanders who played Stark first. I mean, he never acted the role, but he modeled as Howard in photographs in the first Iron Man film. However, when it came to acting the character and breathing the role to life, Marvel felt Gerard didn't have what they were looking for, and he was fired and replaced with John. Number 7. Lou Ferrigno. Another Hulk-related firing. You see, Lou provided the voice of the Hulk once Bruce Banner transformed. He's been voicing the Hulk since the 1970s TV show and made it into the MCU from the first Avenger all the way to Age of Ultron, but when it came to Thor Ragnarok, Mark Ruffalo, who's the actor for Bruce Banner, took over for the voice portion of the post-transformation of Hulk as well. He is Groot, and he is at number 6. Although Vin Diesel is known for providing the voice of the beloved living tree, the visuals of Groot has been played by different people. In the first Guardians of the Galaxy, Christian Godlewski was the body double that the cast would play off of to help envision Groot, to which the CGI team then worked their movie magic in post-production. When it came to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Groot is a wee tree sapling and thus didn't need an actor to play off him, as he was completely made through CGI. But in Infinity War, Groot is a teenager, and thus Marvel casted Perry Naturi to be the motion capture actor. In this scenario, it isn't so much Marvel firing an actor as it is the actor simply growing into a height from an adult to a teenager, and thus a recast was necessary. At the halfway point with Hugo Weaving. Hugo originally played Red Skull, who some fans argue is one of the best Marvel villains. Weaving played Red Skull in Captain America: The First Avenger. However, the actor has publicly stated how he hated the intense makeup it took to get him into the role of Red Skull, and how he wouldn't play the role of the Hydra leader again. Well, Red Skull did make a surprise cameo in Infinity War, but he was played by Ross McQuarrie from The Walking Dead. Ross is very well known for his impersonations of Hollywood actors, and so Marvel hunted him down to recreate the role of Red Skull. He does such a good job that many fans almost didn't notice the recast, myself included. Damian Porter takes the number 4 spot. Thanos. You can't say the name without someone knowing who you're talking about. Heck, even non-Marvel fans know the name. That's how bad of an evil villain he is. Everyone knows him. Well, what everyone doesn't know is that although the MCU was planned from start to finish for the Infinity War saga, however, Thanos wasn't properly cast until Guardians of the Galaxy. Even though Thanos had already appeared briefly in the post-credits of Avengers, although it wasn't a speaking role, he did appear and it left fans shocked. Damian Porter is a stuntman and he stood in for the role of Thanos for that brief cameo. Although he's not a professional actor, so when it came to bringing the role to life, they brought in Josh, who was casted and played the role up until Endgame. Number 3, Josh Dallas as Fandral. Although he was killed off in the opening scene of Thor Ragnarok, Fandral was important to the Asgard world as one of the Warriors 3. Zach Levi was originally casted to play the role, but had to decline due to his TV show Chuck being extended for a 3rd season. So Josh Dallas was then cast and stepped into the role. But then when it came to Thor: The Dark World, Josh's show Once Upon a Time then became very popular and got extended, so he had to pull out of Thor. Funny enough, when he did pull out, Zachary was then available, and so he got to play the role he was originally cast for in both Thor: The Dark World and Thor Ragnarok. Coming close to the end with Terrance Howard at number 2. A notable recast with the role of James in Iron Man, the film that started it all. Terrance Howard played the role in the first movie and was signed on for more films. However, Howard was the highest paid actor on Iron Man, and for reasons unknown, Marvel didn't want to give him a pay bump for Iron Man 2 as they promised. Instead, they ended up firing Howard altogether, giving some of his pay to Robert Downey Jr., the star of the show, who ironically had asked for a pay raise, and thus this whole issue kind of began. Howard was eventually fired and replaced by Don Cheadle, and although Don played the role wonderfully and made it his own, it's a little bothersome that the two actors don't really resemble one another, and they both play the roles so differently. But then again, that's Hollywood. Last but not least, in at number 1 is Howard Norton. The Hulk has had a lot of firings in this list, but this is his most notable. In the 2008 film The Incredible Hulk, which kinda tanked at the box office, Edward played the beloved Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk, which even has a surprise cameo from Robert Downey Jr., who plays Iron Man. Norton was set to play the Hulk in the Avengers film, however, the actor is apparently a lot to deal with on set, demanding to have a lot of creative control over his character, which didn't sit well with Marvel. And considering The Incredible Hulk didn't do that well, Marvel chose to replace Edward Norton for a more well-known actor, in this case being Mark Ruffalo, even though they both look nothing alike. Although fans have noted that they did enjoy Edward's take on Bruce Banner, due to his creative differences with the production crew, he had to be fired.
Starting off our list at number 10 is Jason Statham. It came to be a surprise for a lot of people when articles surfaced that Jason had turned down a major role in the MCU. The articles never mentioned which role it was that he turned down, but just that the reasoning was a schedule conflict. The president of Marvel, Kevin Feige, reported that they've asked for the actor in the past, even before this offer, but nothing ever seemed to work out. He also said that Jason was polite about it and said, "Sorry it didn't work out, maybe next time." This was surprising to hear for a lot of people because reports later on surfaced about the actor slamming Marvel and all other superhero movies in general. When rumors started that he was going to play the villain in the upcoming second season of Daredevil, he responded by saying, and I quote, "I could take my grandma and put her in a cape and then put her in a green screen and then have stunt doubles come in and do all the action. Anybody can do it." He also went on to say that he has no ambition to do modern action films like Marvel. So Jason must be a really good actor then when he was telling Kevin Feige, maybe next time. At number 9 is Emily Blunt. This successful actress would never get denied by Marvel based on her talent, but she probably won't be offered any more roles after denying her last 2. That's right, she has said no to Marvel not just once, but twice. This Devil Wears Prada actress was actually the original choice for Black Widow, but Emily turned down the part. She might be regretting that now after seeing all the movies the hero character has been in, and has now been confirmed to have her own hero film coming. She was also offered the role of Peggy Carter in the first Avenger. Fox reports say that they had her under a contract for a film of their choosing, and it was Gulliver's Travel that kept her from showing up for Iron Man 2. The schedules had conflicts and she turned down yet another role. Back in 2012, during an interview with Vulture, she was asked if she would ever consider doing a superhero movie, and she said she was open to any genre, but stated, and I quote, "Usually the female parts in the superhero film feel thankless. She's the pill girlfriend while the guys are whizzing around saving the world. So I guess she would want a hero-only part, and one that is kicking some serious butt. Who knows, maybe Marvel will be forgiving and try her again one day, although they've been turned down twice already, so it appears they've moved on." Sliding into number 8, we have Will Smith, another actor who turned down a great opportunity but in the DC universe. Apparently he was the first black hero who was considered to play Superman in Superman Returns. Turns out he didn't take the role because of the criticism he faced after portraying the traditionally white hero of Wild Wild West. I can totally understand why you might be more hesitant to take it, but man, how can you turn down becoming the first black Superman? That's iconic. This would give Will the chance to star in a Marvel movie since he didn't take on the DC role, but how could they offer him something bigger than that? If he didn't take an offer like that, what would he take? It also doesn't help his case that he recently announced that he would be leaving the Suicide Squad series and won't be returning for the sequel. Will Smith and his reps refuse to comment on the matter, but some sources have said it's due to scheduling conflicts. The actor isn't painting a very good picture for Marvel when it comes to being reliable or even interested for that matter. Taking the number 7 spot is Matt Damon. If you remember the 2003 movie Daredevil, which was titled a flop, apparently Matt dodged a bullet by turning down the role for it. Daredevil is another Marvel Comics property that ended up with Fox at some point during its development, but stems from the original Marvel Comics. Buddy actors Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were both huge fans of Daredevil. Matt even described Matt Murdock as their favorite superhero. Turns out that Matt was offered the part for Daredevil, which was a pretty tempting deal at first, but when he was approached approached with the project, he said he wasn't impressed with the script. Some couldn't believe he turned down a role from his favorite comics, but he said during an interview that he tried to divorce his emotion from it. It's just another actor who is denying a Marvel role, and one that isn't his favorite comic. What else can Marvel offer for him if he's willing to deny that? Although, with the movie mostly being remembered as bad, it was probably a blessing in disguise. In at number 6, we have Ben Affleck, the runner-up to Matt Damon, who took the role of Daredevil after Damon denied it. In 2003, after Marvel's Daredevil movie hit the screens, nothing for Ben was ever the same. The movie is famously known to be bad and received a variety of bad reviews from critics. Fans have said that it is a movie that had the biggest impact on Ben's career, and not in a positive way. The worst part? Ben agrees. In 2015, during an interview with New York Times Daily, he told the interviewer that he hates Daredevil and it would have saved him a lot of embarrassment if his buddy Matt Damon would have accepted the role first. The movie has always followed him throughout his acting career, he said. Apparently, when he was hired to play Batman in Batman vs Superman, his poor performance as Daredevil was brought up several times. He still blames the movie for hurting his acting career and isn't eager to jump back into Marvel ever again. I think it's safe to say that he had his run with them and the feeling is probably mutual. Halfway through the list at number 5, we have Kristen Stewart, also known as Bella from Twilight. She is one of many actresses who have come out and said that she'd be more than happy to take a role in the MCU. In one of her interviews, she stated that she would love to appear next to Captain America and show the world she can do more than just Bella Swan in the Twilight series. But shockingly, MCU fans weren't enthused in the slightest at the idea of her possibly joining their beloved superhero universe one day. Fans have no problem stating online that she's nowhere near ready or worthy for a gig in the MCU. It doesn't help her case that she was offered a role already in the DC movie Man of Steel as Lois Lane, but she turned it down. According to the New York Daily News, Kristen had a meeting to discuss the role of playing Superman's love interest, but apparently the meeting didn't last very long. Turns out she claimed she had no desire to jump into another franchise even though Twilight was over. So maybe she's just all talk when she said she would be more than happy to take on a role, because guess what, Kristen, the MCU is also a franchise, and one you're probably not ready for. And don't think people have forgotten about her cheating scandal with the director Rupert Sanders from one of her previous movies. People don't forget a reputation like that, especially when it involves the acting industry. Coming in at number 4, we have Mel Gibson, once a very respected and successful actor, but one that is now known for being in scandalous and illegal activities. The actor has had no problem sharing pretty harsh words and has gotten in trouble with the law on a number of occasions. Needless to say, he's not exactly the most popular casting choice right now, especially for Marvel. For starters, I don't think family-friendly Disney would ever want someone like Mel Gibson representing the MCU. And turns out he was already offered a role back in the day and turned it down. He was offered to play the role of Odin in Thor, which is Thor's dad, but he turned it down with no reason at all, simply that he didn't want to do it. And like many other words, he has no problem saying it how it is. During an interview when he was asked about being offered a role in the superhero movie, he said, and I quote, "Yeah, long time ago to play Thor's dad, but I didn't do it." He went on to say that he had no interest, and Marvel probably sees that as a blessing with Mel's awful new reputation he has built for himself since then. Alright guys, at number 3 we have Henry Cavill, also known as Superman from the DCU. Everyone knows the rule of thumb that DC actors can't be in Marvel movies and vice versa. Although the two universes are not in competition with each other, it's just a rule when it comes to casting. Which sucks for actors because they ultimately have to pick their universe and stick with it. And Henry has done just that. No hard feelings for him taking on the role of Superman, but now Marvel won't hire him. Which might be an okay thing because there has been a lot of controversy about rumors stating Henry is leaving his role as Superman. He has played the iconic character in 3 DC comic movies already and was supposed to make a cameo in the recent Shazam movie, but scheduling conflicts prevented him from making an appearance. The rumors that he was leaving the franchise have spiraled out of control on the internet, and he simply responded with an Instagram video that has him staring into the camera as he slowly brings up a Superman figurine into the frame and then moves it out again. Which you could imagine just made the fans go absolutely mental. Is he staying? Is he leaving? Which is it? Marvel doesn't have time for those kinds of games, and even if Henry wanted to, he doesn't have time for Marvel. He's still locked in with the DCU and also just signed onto another franchise called The Witcher. So he's a pretty busy man with some pretty big franchise obligations. At number 2 we have Hugo Weaving, also known for his epic role of the Red Skull in the MCU. In 2011, Captain America: The First Avenger was a huge success and followed the story of Steve Rogers being exposed to an experimental treatment that turned him into a superhero. But the movie wouldn't be complete without his arch enemy, the Red Skull. Critics raved about his performance, and so did his fans, but Weaving wasn't as thrilled about it. In interviews, the actor has said flat out that not only is he not returning for his role of Red Skull, but that he would never work on a Marvel movie again. He said it in a graceful way, but he said he only wants to do movies he has a personal connection to. Well, fair enough, I guess. Taking our number 1 spot is David Hasselhoff, who once took on the role as Nick Fury in a terrible movie back in 1988. The movie has been labeled as atrocious, but Hasselhoff seems to think differently. To this day, he still raves about how he was the original Nick Fury and that he was the best one to do it. During an interview, he stated, and I quote, "I love Sam Jackson, but you know, my Nick Fury was the organic Nick Fury that was written and discussed with Stan Lee before anyone got in there and changed it. Nick Fury was written to be tongue-in-cheek and he had a cigar in his mouth. He was a tough guy. He was cool." I doubt the MCU fans would agree that Hasselhoff's version of Nick Fury would have been a better choice for the Avengers over Samuel L. Jackson's newer version. Not to mention, he probably wouldn't be welcomed back into the MCU anyways with the new reputation he has going for himself. He's been in a number of different scandals, more recently known for the drunk videos his daughter has posted on the internet, which has caused a lot of controversy. Let's just leave Nick Fury with Jackson, and Hufflepuff, Hasselhoff, whatever, can be on his way.
In at number 10, didn't earn it. If you didn't already know, Gwyneth was born into Hollywood royalty, which definitely gave her a leg up in the business. Paltrow's late father, Bruce Paltrow, was a writer, director, and producer known for television shows like The White Shadow and Saint Elsewhere. He even had Gwyneth star in one of his last movies. Then there's Paltrow's mother, Blythe Danner, who is a Tony and Emmy Award winner who has appeared in countless films. But that's not all. Gwyneth's godfather is legendary director Steven Spielberg. Since she has so many connections, it's no surprise that she went into acting. But when accused of getting a helping hand, Paltrow denies this and claims that her parents did not help her whatsoever. When asked about her familial connections, Gwyneth said, quote, "He, my father, said, 'You are completely on your own,' so he never gave me anything. I never had any supplementation. He never helped me with my rent. I never had a trust fund." But I'm not convinced she didn't get a huge head start. In at number 9, full of herself. Since Gwyneth is an A-list actress, it makes sense that she has insane amounts of confidence, but some of her comments about herself have made people roll their eyes. She once stated that she had the quote butt of a 22-year-old stripper with a completely serious face. She also talks of her ability to stay fit and eat clean like it's not something that has happened in part because of her privileged life. She told Elle, quote, "It's so much easier to sit home and not exercise and criticize other people. What I love is inspiring people." She then commented, quote, "I am who I am. I can't pretend to be somebody who makes $25,000 a year." Even adding that working as an actress as a mother is, quote, much harder than having a regular job and being a parent, which is total BS. In at number 8, Goop. Gwyneth started the Goop blog as a way to connect with her fans and share tips on how to live like her. But then things got a little too wacky and Gwyneth started to promote questionable and scammy products. Some of these products are a candle that smells like a vajayjay and a jade egg that's inserted up there to balance your hormones. But not only are these products strange, some of them can actually be dangerous. And the worst part is that almost nothing that Goop promotes is backed by science, but the site makes their claims as fact. Medical professionals have even gone out of their way to disavow many of the claims that Gwyneth makes on her blog. The company was even forced to pay $145,000 to settle a false advertising lawsuit. And at number 7, out of touch. Even though Gwyneth is an A-list celebrity, which means she lives a life we can't even fathom, it seems that she is particularly out of touch. And there are endless quotes from her that people use to prove this fact. The hate against her is so bad that Star magazine gave her the title of the most hated celebrity. In response, Gwyneth said, quote, "I'm really effing good at my job. People who are interesting and good know that. And that's all that matters." Some other comments that made people cringe were when she said she would, quote, "rather die than let my kid eat a cup of soup." Someone even did a financial analysis of one of her cookbooks, and it was determined that it would cost a family roughly $300 per day to eat as Gwyneth suggests. And at number 6, Oscar curse. Many in the business did not respect Gwyneth for her acting until she won an Oscar for leading actress in the movie Shakespeare in Love. But even though she reached the peak of her celebrity after that moment, many believe she was cursed after that Oscar win. Firstly, many people in general just didn't agree with the Academy's choice. Glenn Close was even quoted saying, quote, I remember the year Gwyneth Paltrow won over that incredible actress who was in Central Station, Fernanda Montenegro, and I thought, what? It doesn't make sense. Not only that, but the movies she starred in after the fact were all flops, and Gwyneth herself has even acknowledged that she made some really bad choices. She said that after her win she felt that she could do no wrong and she took anything that was offered to her, when those were roles she would never take today. Halfway at number 5, she disrespects her Marvel movies. One of her most notable roles was playing Pepper Potts in the MCU, but although the public has this strong affiliation, it seems that Gwyneth can hardly remember all the Marvel movies that she's been in. In a now infamous moment from Jon Favreau's cooking series The Chef Show, Favreau, who acted alongside Paltrow in Spider-Man Homecoming, brought up a moment from the film. Gwyneth then told him that she wasn't in that movie, which is odd because she was. She later addressed the mix-up on Jimmy Kimmel, where she said she was confused because she thought he was talking about the Avengers movies. She then revealed she's never even seen Spider-Man Homecoming at all. And if that's true, I guess it makes sense that Tom Holland, who plays Spider-Man, had to reintroduce himself to Gwyneth when she forgot who he was. And at number 4, Entitled. Gwyneth usually has a pretty good relationship with the media because of her famous connections, but that all changed when she had an incident with Vanity Fair that gave her a bad name in the industry. Apparently, the entire feud between them was because the magazine published a story about Gwyneth that was not approved by her. And although it's a nice gesture for a magazine to show you their stories beforehand, it is certainly not something that celebrities are entitled to. Gwyneth was asked by the magazine's editor to collaborate on the content for their cover story, but Gwyneth decided to refuse because they had recently done an unflattering story on one of her ex-partners, Brad Pitt. When Paltrow turned down the offer, he decided to go along with publishing the piece anyways, much to Paltrow's dismay. In response to this, Gwyneth sent out an email to a slew of her A-list friends, telling them to blacklist the magazine, saying in part that the magazine quote threatened to put me on the cover. Quite a threat. And at number 3, she's a diva on set. This one isn't much of a shocker, but apparently she's a real pain on set. I can imagine things were worse after her Oscar win. She was always used to having things go her way because of her famous parents, but on set she would demand to have the best lighting in every single shot and get in everyone's face to make sure she looked better than all her co-stars. Her diva attitude also transferred over to everyday life. According to the Daily Mail, when she visits the spa, Paltrow demands that the shower stalls are cleaned out before she even steps foot in them. She also constantly demands to be paid the most on her movies, even though so few of them are box office hits. And at number 2, Weinstein Connection. Gwyneth has a very controversial relationship with disgraced producer Harvey Weinstein. Her and Weinstein were pretty closely tied because they worked together on Shakespeare in Love, along with a handful of other projects. But she did make quite a statement when she decided to speak out against him when other women were coming forward with their stories. She revealed that she had also been put in uncomfortable situations by him, and that's the reason that she stopped working with him. Although many people supported her courageous decision, a lot of people felt it was BS because she had supported him for so many years beforehand when his behavior was basically an open secret. And finally at number 1, she's not a good lead. Gwyneth has starred in a lot of movies over the years, but it seems that the movies where she plays the lead roles do the worst, and the ones where she's the background character get the most traction. This has somewhat given her a reputation of not being able to lead a movie, especially since the few times that she has tried to headline a movie, the results have been pretty bad. And even though she won an Oscar, it hasn't propped up her image in the industry much because many felt that Miramax essentially bought her the Oscar to promote the movie, which if you didn't already know is something that happens quite often. First up, we got Elliot Page. Elliot Page might be the only person that has directly called out Chris Pratt for his affiliation with the controversial Hillsong Church. Pratt spoke about the church with Stephen Colbert on his show, opening up further about his spirituality, but his comments did not sit well with Page, who took to Twitter to call out Pratt. Elliot tweeted, quote, "Okay, but his church is infamously anti-LGBTQ, so maybe address that too?" Adding in a follow-up tweet, quote, "If you are a famous actor and you belong to an organization that hates a certain group of people, don't be surprised if someone simply wonders why it's not addressed. Being anti-LGBTQ is wrong, there aren't two sides. The damage it causes is severe, full stop, sending love to all." After the situation got tons of media attention, Pratt took to Instagram to share his side of the story. Pratt wrote in part, quote, "It's been recently suggested that I belong to a church which hates people and is infamously anti-LGBTQ. Nothing could be further from the truth. I go to a church that opens their doors to absolutely everyone," adding that he's not the spokesperson for the Hillsong Church or any other group of people. And even though this is the most public feud that Pratt has been in regarding his support of LGBTQ people, many users online also allege that Pratt does not support gay marriage either. Next up, Dylan O'Brien. Dylan O'Brien was another star that got involved in the Chris Pratt-Elliot Page drama. After Elliot tweeted out asking Pratt to comment on the anti-LGBTQ nature of the church, Dylan supported that stance and quote tweeted Elliot's tweet, adding quote, "I second this." I don't believe Dylan commented any further on the matter, but he made sure to voice that he also had questions surrounding the inclusivity of the Hillsong Church. Next up, Anna Faris. Anna Faris and Pratt are now divorced, but they got married in 2009 and were together until they split in 2017. But since their split, Anna has described some things about their relationship that have some questioning Pratt. Speaking to guest Rachel Bilson on the May 3rd episode of her podcast, Anna Faris is Unqualified, Faris said she felt her quote hand was forced in the divorce from Pratt. When speaking about past relationships, Anna said quote, "For me, I think after every breakup at some point I realized that there were a lot of things I ignored that I really shouldn't have. In hindsight, it felt like my hand was forced. I don't think it was ever an independent decision." She also described that in her relationship with Pratt, she would never open up about the struggles that she had or the things that she was facing. She also said her lack of close girlfriends made it harder for her to open up about her struggles in her relationship. Faris added quote, "I think it stunted me in a lot of ways, one of them being that I never talked about any issues, so to the people even who I was closest to, I'm sure things were more transparent with my relationship with Ben, but with Chris, I think we both protected that imagery even within our close circles." Basically saying that they both protected their image rather than actually working through their issues. Next up, Brie Larson. Brie did not directly call out Chris for anything, but Brie Larson was the catalyst that showed us just how sexist Hollywood can be. During the infamous scandal where the internet unanimously voted that Chris Pratt was the worst Chris, Pratt's Marvel co-stars like Mark Ruffalo and Robert Downey Jr. made a point to defend him against the hate. Both men, along with other MCU actors, jumped in to defend Pratt and share their positive stories with him. And although that support was deemed innocent at the time, it was then questioned why women like Brie Larson don't get the same treatment. After Brie Larson spoke out about diversity in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, saying that the MCU needed to be more diverse, she got intense backlash from Marvel fans, and the only MCU star that defended her at the time was Don Cheadle. Many took this to be blatant sexism. Next up, Jason Momoa. In December of 2019, Chris Pratt did a brand deal with Amazon where he shared his workouts with the world. In the photo, he's wearing workout gear next to a treadmill and holding a water bottle, clearly trying to show that he had just worked out. The response on the photo was great, and tons of Pratt's fans were swooning after the star. But fellow actor Jason Momoa had a different take on the photo and decided to share his disappointment with the water bottle choice. Momoa wrote, quote, "Bro, I love you, but what the F on the water bottle? No single-use plastic, come on." However, it seemed the public opinion actually sided with Pratt on this one, and Momoa ended up apologizing to Pratt on his Instagram. In Momoa's photo with Pratt and his kids, he wrote, quote, "Bro, you know my children and I are madly in love with you and I love everything you do. I'm sorry this was received so badly today, I didn't mean for that to happen." Next one, Chris Evans. Before Anna Faris and Chris Pratt broke up, Pratt starred in the film Passengers with Jennifer Lawrence, which created a lot of cheating buzz, because Jennifer and Chris Pratt were love interests in the film. Anna Faris had a hard time with the press saying that Jen and Chris were in love and cheating together, but apparently Jennifer Lawrence was very kind and was very apologetic even though she hadn't done anything wrong. But even though Anna had to suck it up and take it, it seems that wasn't the case for Chris Pratt when Anna was starring in a movie of her own with Chris Evans. While Anna and Chris Evans were filming romantic comedy What's Your Number, Pratt would apparently, quote, "bring up my kissing scenes with Chris Evans casually," with Faris writing in her book that he was never overt. Apparently Pratt would also casually ask, quote, "so when do you have to do that love scene with Evans?" And finally, Chris Pratt himself. The person that keeps getting Pratt in the most trouble is himself. I think over the years he has toned down on anything controversial, but there is a reason people assume he is a Republican and a Trump supporter. One thing that raised a lot of eyebrows was when he wore a top with a mashup of a Gadsden flag, which was designed during the American Revolution, and a modern US flag. The Gadsden flag involves a coiled rattlesnake over a message that reads, "Don't tread on me." The message has been used in a variety of ways over the years, but it's also been adopted by far-right political groups and Second Amendment supporters. So when Pratt decided to wear it out in 2019, many felt this was more proof he is a Republican. One person even tweeted about the shirt, quote, "nice shirt. Only people I see with that flag are alt-right racists." Pratt also got a lot of heat for not attending a Joe Biden fundraiser ahead of his election, even though the entire Avengers cast was in attendance. Many felt this was more proof he was supporting Trump in that election.